to go with an independent party that's called the Independent Party.
Right.
How would they differentiate themselves in 10 years or 5 years from any other party? Like, what mechanism would they need to put in place to guarantee that independence?
Well, your independence from what?
Well, see, if you're called the Independent Party, that means you're not beholden to the other parties, right? You're not beholden to any particular ideology.
Right.
Okay, if you watch the series Designated Survivor, okay, about the Secretary of Housing and Development, ends up being the president, who is played by Kiefer Sutherland. It's a great series for the first 2 years. The third one sucked. But anyway, he was an independent, and he got elected as an independent, and he governed as an independent, trying to sort out deals between the Republicans and the Democrats and the challenges that posed. So I'm using that as a bit of a backdrop in the back of my mind. So, okay, but how do you maintain that independence? Because the temptations of being in political office, one of the things you have to be independent of is the draw to power. You know, like if let's say we had an independent party with 50 seats, just to throw a number out there, what's their number one goal? To increase their seats, share in the House of Commons. That's their number one goal. It supplants their original number one goal, which was to represent the people independent of political ideology, just on a base, politics, of course. But I mean, they don't care about, is it left or right? Is it good or bad? Is how they would view it based on feedback from their constituents. But that flips the moment they say, well, how do we add more to our numbers? And how do you maintain the two? I think this is the challenge an independent party would face.
Well, this is the challenge that any political party faces. And so you always have this tension between the needs of individual MPs and the constituents that elect individual MPs and the need of the party. And, this is a very good topic, Nick, and, we're a little bit
late to the party
a little off, the subject we started with, but I think it's an important topic. The reality is that political parties exist, I think, as you're saying, they exist to get elected and they exist to stay elected.
Right.
That's the agenda of a political party. Political parties might have a particular approach to government or a particular ideological bent one way or the other, but ultimately their main objective, while trying to stay loyal or ideologically consistent to a degree, to the greatest degree possible, while you're pursuing political power. And so you will often have political parties sacrificing principle in order to achieve political power. And so, but that's the nature of the beast. And so I've been at this a long time, and I've spoken actually at conferences on this very subject, Nick. If you want your political party to be ideologically pure, forget it. You're barking up the wrong tree. No political party is ideologically pure. No political party will ever be ideologically pure, and they don't have an intention of being ideologically pure. So how do you approach the problem? You have to have, and we'll speak about the conservatism that's itself, as opposed to every other group for the time being. The conservatives have to have an independent conservative movement. That is to say, they have to have associations or organizations that are not beholden to the political party, that are not in business to get people elected, that are not afraid, as you and I have proven, I think, time and time again, that we're not afraid to criticize and call out our friends and colleagues in the Conservative Party when we think that they're off base or doing something that is damaging to the country or to the conservative movement. So your conservative movement has to operate independently and not be afraid to criticize the party and the party's leaders and recognize that that's their role. One of the problems that we have in this country is that we don't have a very vibrant political movement, conservative movement.
Yeah.
We have a conservative party, and regrettably, people who are active in conservative politics look to the party as opposed to the movement as the main player, the main manifestation of their views on politics and what they want to achieve.
Which is diametrically opposed to what the Americans do. They have a very vibrant young Republican organization, or let's call it conservative organization.
Right.
Like, we don't have the Young Conservatives of Canada that I know of, and if we do, it's a very small outfit.
Well, if we did, it would be subsumed into the Conservative Party, because conservatives in Canada make the mistake of assuming that their main focus should be on the Conservative Party. And many, many times I have seen that the Conservative Party will do things that we all know as conservatives are wrong, okay, or inconsistent with what we believe as conservatives, but we won't criticize them because we don't want to give them a black eye, and we don't want to diminish their potential for being elected.
And I think there's a little bit of
the problem with that. Just to finish the thought, Nick, the problem with that is that if that's what you do, then you never hold the party itself accountable, and there's no anchor that's holding it to conservative principles. So you have to have both. And you have to understand that the party is not the conservative movement. And I'm perfectly prepared to accept that the party is going to make compromises from time to time. But the conservative movement, the organizations that are responsible for promoting conservatism in this country, should never make compromises. They should never say, okay, that just to pull a scenario out of the air, hypothetically, they should never say, well, we're not going to support anymore as a conservative organization the traditional definition of marriage, because if we were to do that, we would harm the Conservative Party's chances of getting into power. Well, the Conservative Party's chances of getting into power have nothing to do with your responsibility as a conservative organization. You should continue to fight for what you believe. And for those out there who listen to this and go, yeah, but we're going to hurt the party's chances of getting into power. I'm going, in the long run, it has the opposite effect, because it creates space for the party to be able to adopt more conservative positions, okay? It cultivates the ground, if you will, plows the road for a party. And so in the long run, if you want to advance conservative principles, the best way to do it isn't through the party directly. It's outside of the party. Now, and, contact, anyone out there who's listening to this, who's interested in that, and is interested in getting involved in stuff like that, by all means, contact me, send me an email, joseph@josephbenamy.com, because I want to hear from you, because now, for years I've been pushing this thing.
Yeah, and I agree with you on everything you said. Two things come to mind, though. Number one is, how do you actually do that? Start that movement. And what is it going to take? What shape will it take? So there's a lot of logistical things that have to be sorted out. Number two is the political party's reaction. If they see a conservative movement, they're going to want to control it, and they're going to want to set the agenda.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that keeping them out of it would be very difficult.
No, well, yeah. Well, life is difficult.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And so, nobody
said it was going to be easy.
You're not wrong, and we see that. I've been involved in the party, and I've been involved outside of the party.
They don't even have a youth wing, do they?
I've had senior party members call me, from time to time when I've been working with an conservative organization, and I think, when the Conservative Party was in government, and Stephen Harper was the Prime Minister, from time to time we would criticize the party and the government and say that's not the right way to go. And I'd get calls from the Prime Minister's office saying, Joseph, I thought you were a friend. What are you saying this stuff? You're hurting us. And I go, that's, again, I'm not hurting you. I'm helping you. I'm helping you. Because you can come closer to what I'm saying is the right course of action, okay, without actually coming all the way over. And then you can say that I'm the extremist, but you're the moderate. I mean, if you want to talk tactically, okay, there are lots of things that you could do that are positive. But you're not wrong. The party would want to and does want to control the conservative movement in this country.
We're going to have to talk more about this in upcoming shows, because I think there is a deep hunger for this kind of thing. The question is, how do you keep the politicians' fingers out of it? And how do you go about recruiting people for it? And what is your message going to look like?
Yeah, again, I'm dead serious, Nick. If anybody is interested in having this conversation, I'm the person to have the conversation. I mean, I'm in touch with probably a half a dozen different groups and individuals, like key individuals who want to do more about this stuff, and they want to come together and be more effective in terms of a movement. But again, you have to be prepared to take a tough stand and not be afraid to criticize the party. And people are going to listen to our podcast about the Aaron O'Toole and the Derek Sloan thing, and I guarantee you, Nick, I'm going to be getting phone calls about it. Because they're thinking, well, you're giving our leader a black eye. I'm a member of the party. I'm giving my own leader a black eye. But somebody's got to hold our own people accountable. If we're not prepared to police ourselves and hold ourselves accountable, how are we going to be? Who's going to hold us accountable when we're in government?
That's a very good question, and he deserves a black eye.
Well, I don't know, but there it is. You want to be leader, you're going to have to take
the lead.
You have to take it.
All right. Well, guess what?
Yeah, it's time, Nick.
Yes, it is. All right. With that said, Joseph, you got anything to say?
Thanks for joining us.
Other than see you when you're older?
Yeah, no, seriously. Thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. We hope that you're enjoying what you're listening to. Don't forget to share us on social media. If you're listening to the podcast, we really do want more listeners, because we are on a crusade to make Canada great again.
All right. With that said, I'll wish you all good night. EBS. Good evening. God bless. Don't let anything disturb your peace, and may you have a fair wind and a following sea.